Open my heart with the whispers of truth to live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello and welcome to Growing Edge Live. I'm Allie Benjamin, and it is my great joy to be here today again with another amazing guest. Every week we jump on here at YouTube, or maybe you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, I don't know. But we have conversations with soul-centered individuals that are channeling their time, their talent, energy, resources, creativity, their joy into doing good work in the world and helping people to wake up and have a bigger experience in this beautiful thing that we call life. We're all in this together. And today I am introducing my friend Kathryn Dixon. She founded Clarity Coaching Institute. I think it was in 2003. And Kathryn, we're going to find out more about her. We're going to dive into her life and hear about the work she's doing with thousands of people she's worked with over the course of her coaching and her career and her life in general. She's a spark, she's a light, she's a dear friend of mine. Kathryn, welcome to Growing Edge Live.
Thank you, Allie. It's a delight to be here.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Even though we're close, we're only probably 30 miles apart here at the top of Utah. We haven't seen each other for several years, so I'm really excited to dive into the work you're doing now. But before we go there, why don't we hear about you and where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Ohio, spent part of my childhood in Massachusetts, then Iowa, and then as soon as I could, at 17 years old, I escaped to California.
Where did you land in California?
San Luis Obispo was my first landing spot.
Oh yeah, my mother lived there for years.
Oh, beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah. I just needed to get out and do my own thing. I was ready. So
San Luis Obispo, Atascadero. Actually, my
Santa
mother lived in
Santa Barbara, Carmel, all over.
So beautiful.
It is.
So that was a big culture shock, I'm sure, coming from Ohio to California.
Well, it was a culture relief, actually. That's how I experienced it. Our family of origin is our first teacher, right? And a lot of what you learn, a lot of what I learned was really painful. And so I just wanted to get as far away from them as possible. If there'd been more land, I would have gone further, but I've come to realize it wasn't them at all. It was my stories about them and myself that I was trying to get away from.
It sounds like you had a pretty uncomfortable childhood. What was going on in your early days that caused you stress or
Well, I was the only girl originally in a family of 4 boys, and one of them died. My father had been pretty tweaked by the Second World War, which I think many, many men were, and came back one of the most loving people on the face of the earth that I think I've ever met. However, he couldn't quite handle it when my brother died. I mean, he'd survived the war, but he sort of lost his marbles and became an alcoholic, and a violent alcoholic. And there were all kinds of traumas I'm not going to get into, but it was a really, really challenging childhood. And, my mother was alcoholic for a while too. So it was pretty juicy space, and I just had a really hard time. Yeah. So it was tough. My best friend, the first time I ever found someone that I could relate to was thrown from a horse and killed.
Oh my goodness.
what is going on, universe? And at that point, I just wanted to die. I mean, I really did.
What age were you when your friend had that?
17.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you,
And
was
that's when
that,
I decided I've had enough of this place. Maybe if I leave, it'll get better. Yeah.
Was there anyone in those early years that was a light or a safe, soft place for you?
Mm. My older brother was my protector, but he needed to take care of his own psychological well-being as well, So yeah, in those early days, I mean, I was raised Catholic and I knew that I was here about God and love or whatever. I didn't, so they gave me the Catholic Church and, not everybody has this experience, but mine was, they said, the more you suffer, the closer to God you are. So I thought I was in the right place.
You had a direct line.
Yeah. And so when it wasn't happening naturally, I stirred it up myself. So I did find a lot of comfort as a child reading books about the saints, But if I look back at them now, I'm not sure I would approve of my reading material. Not because, I mean, we had a whole different perspective on what's healing and what's not, now, or I do anyway.
Yeah. So you gravitated towards those saints, I would imagine, because there's a sense of something greater or something.
Yeah. When I was little, people would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I'd be like, "A saint." And they'd be like, "Oh, okay." But it's funny that I moved to Utah, the home of Latter-day Saints.
Oh my goodness.
But I'm a Gentile here, so it doesn't count really.
Same. Yeah. So was there one saint that spoke to you?
Saint Teresa, the Little Flower, the one who had a passionate relationship with Christ.
Is that Teresa of Avila, I think?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would have your own sort of inner world or relationship with this?
Kind of, sort of, but it really, as the darkness sort of creeped in from the edges, I mean, after a while, I was just kind of like, what the heck? And when Jane died, I was like, all right, God, you can stick it. I've had enough of you. You have not been the help that I was counting on, and yeah, so I just bailed on everything. I mean, I bailed on the Catholic Church with Jane. We decided we were going to go find God. So we went from church to church to church, and it was quite the colorful adventure. But we never really found what we were looking for. Yeah.
So when you moved to California, were you still on that path of spiritual seeking? Or
no, I was in my rebel stage, so I did wild and crazy for quite a while. And then when that didn't work, I joined a spiritual community that was, the founder of it had been the bodyguard of Paramahansa Yogananda.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so it was called Brotherhood of the Sun. And we had properties all over California, and we had health food stores. In fact, how I got to Utah was we'd moved. We left California and came to Utah and started all kinds of things, but New Frontiers were the health food stores that now Wild Oats has bought. So, so the community was a healing experience for me, particularly the first 3 years. I felt like I was on a honeymoon with God. I got to meditate. I got to feel, a true connection with God and love that I'd always known, And then as it happens with honeymoons, they come to an end and you get to deal with your stuff, right? But I was in the community for about 12, 13 years, I think. And, that was quite the adventure.
So was that community embraced by the greater community of the Salt Lake area?
We hid ourselves. All the men cut their hair off and put cowboy hats on. Because when we were in California, we would have mornings where we would braid the brothers' hair, right? But as soon as they moved here, they wanted to kind of be incognito. It was kind of weird. Yeah. But first we lived on this ranch in Nevada, out in Oasis, Nevada. We bought a 1 million acre ranch, and we thought that would be a good place for everybody when Armageddon hit, right? You know? And
1 million acres. I don't think I've heard anyone ever say 1 million acres. I mean, my mind can't even wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
So this was a commune of sorts then.
Yes. You know, when we were in California, we were all kids, you know, we lived in, you know, tree houses, and I lived in a teepee for years. I also we had a sailing schooner that was 150 feet long that Captain's Courageous was actually filmed on. Beautiful wooden old sailing schooner for a couple of years. So, you know, I mean, it was very, you know, lively environment to live in. And we all lived together. I mean, we all had meditation morning and evening together, and we ate meals together, and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
So you said there was, you know, a breaking up, or you know, the love affair ended at some point with this community, or with this teaching, or what was it?
Well, it was interesting. Yeah, the head of the community was Norman Paulson, and, you know, again, a very loving, devoted individual. And like most people walking the planet, as Ram Dass likes to say, not all his seeds were cooked, right? You know, so we've all got our places to work, you know, but at any rate, you know, I had a child that died. My firstborn son died 3 days after he was born, and it was a home birth, and so there was all kinds of drama around that. And then the next year, my daughter Jessica was born with Down syndrome. And that wasn't really catalytic. I mean, I'd been itching to go for a while, but my husband was like, no, we're staying. And, you know, I was still working my way out of the patriarchal vortex. And so I was staying. And then all of a sudden he decided it was time to go, and we were like gone. That's how it happened. And we stayed in Salt Lake City where the community was, but we just stopped being a part of it officially.
Okay. So I missed the husband piece. So did you meet your husband back in California, and then everyone came out here together?
Yeah. He was part of the community, and we met and got married. People ask me, I think it was in 70. I don't remember dates and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, a year or two before Zachary was born.
Okay. And Jessica, your daughter, how old is she today?
She's 38 years old, Allie.
Oh my goodness. She's a year older than my daughter.
Wow. And she's my teacher. I always kind of wanted to have a kid so I could tell him what was going on. But the universe sent me a Kathryn-proof kid, right? You know, totally. And I'm like, okay, so I get to learn. And I don't know if you or your audience has run across this new kind of happening called the telepathy tapes. Have you heard about those?
Yeah, it's I have, but I think maybe I listened to one episode. It's a podcast.
The first few are interesting, but they really start getting interesting later. So Jessica is both Down syndrome and autistic, which about 30% of that population are. So it's not that unusual. But yeah, there were just
now the telepathy tapes. Don't they focus in on how the parents or caregivers, the child can sense what they're thinking and communicate in more subtle ways than verbally? Yes,
and more effectively when someone's listening at that level. It's a paradigm shattering podcast. It really is, because we've known. And of course, there are naysayers all over the place, but that's the name of the game. What I got out of it, I mean, Jessica has always been really intuitive and blowing my mind. She does stuff all the time. I hide things and she can always find them. Like, I'm like, but you know, there are so many other things. And the beauty about this work is that when these guys have a vehicle to communicate with, what they communicate is you know, typically, or at least the ones they feature, and I suspect the larger part of the population is very profound spiritually in their awareness and understanding of who we are, even though their bodies have dyspraxia, so their bodies don't work, but their being does. And maybe even because the bodies don't work, their being works better, right? You know, who knows? But anyway, these are really beautiful, and they are taking the world by storm. And this really kind of normal woman just posted them, and it's just been breaking the podcast. I mean, she's now been interviewed in the last week or two by some of the most major podcast interviewers, and she became first place in all podcasts, this work, because we're ready to hear this. We're ready to hear that there is another way to be, you know, because clearly the way we're being isn't so hot, right? You know,
Exactly.
with our best intentions, we are not able to live as the love that we are quite yet. And these guys have hints. That's what I would say.
Well, I'm excited to dive more deeply into listening to those telepathy tapes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you left your group,
Mhm.
is that the right word? Or is it?
Community group, whatever.
Yeah.
Tribe.
So when you left your community, your group, your tribe, did it continue, by the way?
Oh yeah. You know, when we moved from California, lovely paradise, to Nevada, we lost a fair number of our tribe, you know, because people are like, I don't think so, you know. But yeah, they have since moved back to the Buellton area, and I think there's maybe 70 of them still together. I don't know. I don't pretend to know. And you know, I keep slight contact via Facebook and stuff like that. I mean, you know, you go through phases, you love people, they're always and forever part of your hearts, and life moves, right?
Yeah. So what happened for you and your family when you left and you stayed in Salt Lake City and you're still here? And that was, how long ago was that you left the community? And
Jessica was 2.5, so it was 88-ish.
Okay. And so how did you find yourself coming out of such a certain, you know, environment into regular life?
Well, I just started really exploring, you know, other avenues and perspectives. Again, you know, just the same thing I did with Jane, only a more mature version, I guess. What did I do? Well, I was mostly trying to be a wife and a mother of Jessica, this person who had different needs, and discover what that was. I mean, that was a major focus of mine. I actually, okay, it's coming to me now. I did become a lobbyist on behalf of, you know, the Legislative Coalition for People with Disabilities. You know, first I decided I wanted to make Jessica the first genius Down syndrome kid that ever lived, right? That didn't work. So then I thought I'd change the world and become a lobbyist, right? And I had a little more influence there, but still not overly impressive. So, you know, I just kept trying to serve in the ways that felt both immediate and relevant to the population. I'm a Virgo, you know, we're all about service, you know. And so what did I do? Well, I did get divorced when my husband left me for his therapist. That was like interesting too. And, you know, I just sort of plugged along. I got married again. I was married for like 4 or 5 years. I just sort of found my way slowly but surely into, I don't even know what to say. What did I do all those years? I don't know.
Yeah. So you had a spiritual connection. You had such a deep meditation practice, it sounds like, through living in community that you continued. So how did your spiritual path unfold from leaving the community to?
Well, I got really into A Course in Miracles, like really, really into the Course in Miracles. And I mean, I even did one of the years, I did this group online with somebody from Canada named Doug. I can't remember, but we studied 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon.
My goodness, you are serious, Sika.
I was pretty serious. Yeah, I mean, you know, the option looked like suffering, and I'd kind of had enough of that. But it helped. I always intuited a depth to A Course in Miracles that I couldn't quite grasp or always, lean into in moments when I was being crazy or feeling crazy or the world looked crazy. Yeah. So that was a big deal for me. I think that was kind of what sustained me mostly through a lot of the wild days. And then back in 1997, I'm just going to go there. I had a meditation group, part of a meditation group that met on Sundays at the Yoga Center in Holiday. And my dear friend Kathy owned the place. And Byron Katie had a little flyer up. She looked really different then. And she had been coming to Salt Lake because there was a little pod of people that really, really loved her, but nobody knew her from a hole in the wall. And my friend said she'd gone, like Katie did a evening thing, and then the next day she was going to do a Sunday thing after our meditation. And my friend Kathy, she'd gone the night before. She's like, Kathryn, you need to check this out. And I'm like, another spiritual teacher, been there, done that, have about 95 t-shirts. I'm sort of over that, and she's like, no, you don't get it. And I'm like, because I always think I get it. And so I argued with her, but it was so out of her character to be so insistent with me that something went, well, maybe you should check this out. So I did. And so when we had our meditation, of course, everyone was in a circle on the floor at the Yoga Center. And then they start preparing. So Katie was like an hour after or something. They start preparing the stage, and there was this grand chair and then a chair, right? And so my little ego was like, oh my gosh, here we go again. But then when Katie came out, she was the most unpretentious, whole human, no big deal person. And you could just feel I don't even know what the word was, the authenticity, and I didn't even know what was authentic until I watched her. This is Utah, so most people are LDS. And there was this incredibly beautiful young man who was, loved and adored his family, as is part of the culture. I mean, he truly did. And he was gay. And it was splitting the family apart, and it was splitting his heart and soul apart. And it was just mind-blowing to watch Katie walk him through with these 4 questions. He went literally in front of my face, I kid you not, from agony to ecstasy. I was like, whoa,
Wow. So let's back up a little bit for those of that are watching or listening that maybe don't know Byron Katie or the work, which is what she calls the 4 questions that you referenced. Who is Katie?
Byron Katie is a woman who suffered gravely. I mean, she went through 10 years of super suicidal, agoraphobic depression. She was very successful. She was very beautiful, but she was not finding it, like so many of us on the planet, and had just sort of holed herself up in a room. Anyway, it's a long story, but the short version is one morning she just woke up, and all of a sudden she didn't believe any of her thoughts, and she was free. And from that came self-inquiry with the Work of Byron Katie, which is what she does. And that's what I've been doing all these years, and myself, as well as, with so many people. And I've just never seen anything that helps people unravel their pain and their suffering so quickly and so fully. And it's something you want to practice because, it's just like going to the gym. We're used to believing our thoughts. But at any rate, Katie is just this wildly generous, beautiful soul who's offered this work for all these years. I worked pretty closely with her for many years, helping to offer, workshops and here and in California and whatever. And I just, once I found this, I was like, okay, this is my Bodhi tree. This is my thing, right? And
so you saw this young man have this complete, experience of
liberation,
suffering, struggling, and then liberated from that.
And
So,
he did it. He did it. It wasn't Katie that does
right.
it. We have a paradigm where you have to go to somebody holy, and that's how you get holy. And one of the things that I totally love and respect about this work is the answers you're looking for come from inside of you. The questions help you to look in places you've never looked before and discover truth that you've never seen before.
So
But
what you watched the transformation happen in front of you with other people watching, obviously, with this extremely humble woman that didn't seem to be any kind of big ego or extraordinary personality other than being able to help him reveal his own insights or own
yeah,
truth.
is it true? You know?
So what happened with you right after that? So you're sitting there, you're watching
So
this.
I was mind blown. And so Kathy and I just started doing the work like little monsters, and, you know, as much as we possibly could, our own and individually. And we would go to Barstow, you know, where Katie was, and Katie would still come to Salt Lake City. So, but, you know, the beauty about the work is you don't need Katie, you don't need Kathryn, you need you and your own honesty and willingness to see things from a different light, you know, and we think we're giving up something that works, but when you look a little closer, most of what we think doesn't work so well, you know? So yeah, I just dove headfirst and just started blowing my mind right, left, and center, and going to workshops with Katie. And yeah, I mean,
What was the first thing you discovered when you and is it Kathy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's the one with the long hair, right? I think.
Nope, that's Carol. That's
okay,
Carol.
I always get them confused. What is it that was the first big aha for you when you did the work?
That I'm not trapped, that I'm free, that I have a choice each and every instant in how I experience or interpret what is. You know, Byron's Katie's first book, we call her Katie, was Loving What Is. And that's kind of, you know, the basis of her work. And yeah, I mean, I've always felt trapped by all of the environments and concepts and whatever. And some part of me just couldn't breathe in that. And once I realized I wasn't trapped, that I had an option. Katie says suffering is optional, you know, which was life-changing because suffering was my middle name. Thank you very much, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, I did the work.
Yeah, suffering is optional. That's sort of revolutionary when you really, but you know, think about that, believe it, realize it, and that also our thoughts, we can actually choose to think particular thoughts or not. And just gaining that distance of, you know, what am I choosing right now? What am I choosing to think about right now? Who do I think I am right now? So we're going to take a really short break, and we're going to come back, and I'd love it if you would share the 4 questions of the work.
I sure will.
And the turnaround.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
You got it.
Okay. We'll be right back.
Good. Thank you.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents the 2025 season for Nonviolence Meditation Series, January 31st through April 4th. Embrace nonviolence every day with our 64 unique video meditations. Join us at 6 a.m. Mountain Time or watch anytime on our YouTube channel. Featuring a collection of New Thought voices, the 2025 season for Nonviolence Meditation Series. Only on New Thought Media Network, January 31st through April 4th.
Join our celebration of Black History Month. Only on New Thought Media Network. New videos every day at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, or watch anytime on our YouTube channel. 28 unique Black history moments. Every day in February. Only on New Thought Media Network.
And we're back. That was quick.
Yep.
So we are talking with Kathryn Dixon, and she founded Clarity Coaching Institute back in 2003. And we've heard a lot about your story, how things got to be the way they are in your life now. And you're deeply immersed in, I've heard, of course, in miracles, and I've heard the work of Byron Katie. And so you've taken this work of Byron Katie and created a coaching practice and platform for other coaches to support other people. So what can you share a little bit about your purpose with this and how that gained momentum to the point that you actually wanted to put yourself out there in this way?
Well, how I actually started is a different story, but yeah. Well, I just knew that it worked, and I was working with people on the side all the time, friends and things like that. And it just works. If you're willing to be free and to see differently, this is a very simple recipe that works. You know, and I was doing other things professionally, and then I had kind of an explosion in my life, the end of my last marriage, and there were all kinds of challenges around that, and I was feeling like I'd been blown up in a bomb. And then I heard Spirit say, well, now's the time to start your business. I'm like, what? Who are you talking to? Have you taken a look at what's happening here? You know, I mean, I'm a mess. And it was just so insistent that I couldn't not do it. Plus, it was my favorite thing in the world to do. So those two things moved me into opening this up. And the first year or two were, you know, kind of quiet. You know, I mean, I would do presentations and I had clients, but maybe I'd say the first year it took a little while to get things rolling. But what is my purpose? My purpose is that everyone who wants to be free has a vehicle to experience the truth of freedom, which changes everything. I mean, I can't tell you every day, you know, clients are like, I can't believe how much my life has changed, you know? And sometimes they'll come to a session, they'll be like, this one's not going to work, Kathryn. You know, those are my favorite because it always does, you know? And sometimes people, you know, very rarely, because once we know that there's a way out of hell, essentially, we want to take it, you know, and some people need to take it a little slower or whatever. But if you're willing, yeah, this just works.
What's the predominant concern or thought or trap that people find themselves in? That's like,
good question.
You know, what is it that people are struggling with most? Because as you're sharing this, and I've done the work myself for a long time now, is there one core belief or a handful of core beliefs that people sort of, it's like a broken record, they can't seem to?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I'm not going to give you I mean, I can give you some of them, but what I would say is the biggest confusion is that life happens to you, not for you. So that's a Byron Katie quote, by the way. And, you know, I mean, I always thought I was subject to life. And with this inquiry and who I'm discovering is behind my stressful, fearful thoughts is, you know, access to joy and freedom and even ecstasy at any given moment. So the idea that you are, I guess I can only say it in the context of how I knew it. I was trapped in this crazy world filled with suffering and there was no way out. And so people don't realize the power that lives inside of them, nor do we realize, what we're doing to ourselves. There was no self-love 101 class any place I went. I don't know about you, but you know, it's not what we know. We're taught, you know, being kind and good to yourself is selfish. You know, you need to take care of everybody else. And I was really good at that. And I noticed, I thought, I thought I was really good. Nobody really appreciated it that much. And I was burnt out and resentful. And anyway, you know, so with this work, you learn how to take care of yourself, which is the foundation of taking care of anyone else, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Happens for you, not to you, which is a major game changer, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, because absolutely. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I could say, I could go on and on. Yeah. What? Go ahead.
So let's dive into the questions.
Okay, okay. So those of you listening, let's just, just for a minute, find a moment. You want to focus on a very specific moment. Don't do generalities, because then you'll have a general liberation. And those are like 12% fun compared to what's available. Okay. So go to a moment when your kid did something, or your partner did something, or the government did something. It doesn't matter. It can be in the past. It can be in Washington, D.C. A lot of people are telling stories about that these days. So it doesn't matter. It can be your body, because we're in relationship with everything. So you want to look for a place where not that is kind of your primary thought. Don't want that. So you look at that moment, and there's a self-inquiry survey is what I call it. Byron Katie calls it Judge Your Neighbor Worksheet, where you write out your feelings about that very specifically, so that you can see what's going on, that we just kind of feel the shadows of, I would say, without even realizing what's happening. So, yeah. So you go to the moment and you find a one-liner, or, this is kind of hard to describe, but anyway, you look at the belief that you find really stressful. So maybe it would be, I don't know, can you think of one?
Yeah, well, I'll think of something just really sort of general that people might relate to. I don't know.
Well, it'd be nice if you had one.
Yeah.
Are you ready to go there? Yeah.
Well, what about, I'm not happy in the current home I'm living in?
Okay, so I don't like my home.
I don't like my home.
Okay, all right. So, and we're not going to get in depth, because my sessions are like 2 hours long.
Yeah, we may not have that much time.
It's kind of like, I'm more like a roto-rooter sort of person.
Yeah,
but,
so just to frame it up.
So I don't like my home.
Yeah, and this is, for me, this is part true, but part not, because I know I'm in a temporary place right now.
Right.
But yeah, day in, day out, I always have this, the walls are too thin.
What is one of your complaints about your home? So I'm going to get a little more specific. It's too what, or not enough what?
I can hear other people all the time. I don't feel like I have privacy.
Okay, so I need more privacy.
I need more privacy.
Or my home isn't private enough. Let's do it that way, because with the work, you don't, especially in the beginning, want to work on stories about yourself, because the short version is, when I'm standing in front of a mirror, I can see more of myself. If I'm just looking at myself, I can only see segments, and I have a lot of filters. So you don't want to do the work on yourself. Everybody's all, I know it's all about me, Kathryn, but you don't know, So my home is not private enough.
Yeah, I don't feel it's quiet enough or private enough to really enjoy my meditation.
All right.
So that's the thing.
Let's do it this way. I need my home to be more quiet.
I need my home to be more quiet.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so the first question, so we've got the focal point. I need my home to be more quiet. The first question is it true? You need your home to be more quiet, Allie. Is it true?
Just as I think of that thought, yes.
Yes. We wouldn't be talking about it if you didn't think it.
Yeah.
The second question is, can you absolutely know that you need your home to be more quiet?
No, I can't absolutely know anything.
Absolutely true. We think we know everything, and I really thought I knew everything until this work, and now I'm glad I know nothing. But so I can't absolutely know, and sometimes the answer is still yes, it is true, because we believe what we think.
Yeah, there's definitely a part of me that's like, hell yeah, if it was quiet,
hell yeah, that was what I was going to say. Yeah, hell yeah, Kathryn, it is true. And I have kind of a sneaky question that Katie doesn't ask, but I love it. So can you know that it would be in your highest good, Allie, if your home were more quiet?
No.
So there you go. I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing. We think we know what's in our highest good. And I can tell you that I spent most of my life wrong about that.
Right, because as I look back over my years of all the different niggly complaints or, judgments I had, I don't know if they were good. A lot of them were good, even that were terrible situations at the time. Something good came of it, or I took my life in a different direction because of it. So these questions really have you not so focused in on. I mean, you are focused in on the particular problem, but you're also considering, more of a, bigger perspective.
Well, the second question opens a door. Can you absolutely know? And the truth is no. And it's okay if you say yes and hell yes, that's fine. So the third question is, how do you react when you believe the thought you need your home to be more quiet?
Yeah, this for me is the question that sucks me right in. Like, when I think that thought, I'm a not a very nice version of myself. Like, I'm petty, I'm like particular, I'm not very nice to be around. I don't feel nice to be around with myself when I'm thinking that thought. Like, it's uncomfortable.
And if we had more time, we'd look at that very specifically, but I won't go there for right now to save time. But so how do I react when I believe the thought? In this part of the session, it's like a little sojourn through hell, because when we're believing a stressful thought, nothing works. We don't see clearly. We don't hear what's going on. We're completely unaware of anything except our complaint and our argument with what is, contrary to Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is, so how do I react when I believe my stressful thought? I'm possessed by confusion and suffering. And it's never pretty. And how do I treat other people? I mean, you said petty, and we can't help it because we're believing our thoughts. And so innocently, we just go waltzing right into hell, right? So the fourth question is, and this is the one that lets you out of hell. Who would you be without that thought that you need your home to be more quiet? Allie?
Yeah, I am what I would term as my true self. Like, I'm more kind and loving and spacious and accepting, and that's how it feels when I let go of that thought and I'm just the me that I would prefer to be.
Kind and relaxed. Yes. So you can see how she went from, or even Allie's face. When I first started this, I'm like, I could use this as a facelift. Because when we're all, we don't look good, but who am I without the thought? We actually experience our true self, who is always inside of there. Lots of times in sessions, when people get there, they're like, Kathryn, how do I hold on to this? I'm like, you don't have to. It is right inside of you, waiting on the other side of your honest answers to these questions. It's your true self is not out there. It's not in 2 weeks. It's not in 10 years at the monastery. It's inside of you, just waiting for your own discovery. So who I am without my thought is my true self. And and it's just so lovely to feel that. And then we do what's called turnaround. So we take the original statement, I need my home to be more quiet. And we discovered that maybe we don't need that. I mean, you got pretty happy without that thought, right? So the original thought is, I need my home to be more quiet. And we turn it around 3 different ways. This is a home, so, okay. So I can see 3 turnarounds. The first one is where we take the other person or thing out and we make it all about us. So instead of I need my home to be more quiet,
I need myself to be more quiet about this.
Yeah, with me.
with me.
Yeah.
Well, and my poor husband, because he hears about it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need
So
me
why
to
would that be more helpful than your home being quiet if you were more?
because as long as I keep on attaching to this belief, this thought, this story, it just keeps me in a place of feeling dissatisfied.
Mhm.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, and that is a common theme for me. I've noticed, if I'm being really honest with myself, I have I can get stuck in a rut of discontent and dissatisfaction,
Mhm.
and it's for no good damn reason. Like it's based on things like this, having
Well,
a
it's
thought.
habitual stressful thinking, you know,
Mhm, mhm.
and totally innocent habitual stressful thinking. Because we think if we complain long enough, things will get better, but it actually works in the opposite direction. In case you haven't noticed, you know? Yeah, so I need me to be more quiet within myself, you know? And then I need me. So the other way is to switch it. So I need my home to be more quiet for me. I need to be more quiet for my home. Can you find any truth in that?
Yeah,
It's kind of
because I feel like when I'm in the discontent or I'm in a grumbling, in that place of being dissatisfied, I'm actually, this is kind of harsh language, but I'm actually like poisoning the environment with the energy.
yeah,
And so I feel like if I was free from that thought, then I would be bringing better energy into my home and into this environment. And I do share it with 4 other people.
yeah, yeah,
And so, and a doggy. And so I feel like all of them would be benefiting from me being being aware of the fact that I affect my environment. My
yes.
attitude affects my environment, I think would be more cohesive for our
Yeah,
family.
and you would be more cohesive in your environment, which would be more fun for you, right?
Yeah. And when I'm in that other place of believing it, I don't feel very fun.
Uh-huh.
feel like the opposite of fun.
Suffering is just not fun. You know, the Catholics, what I heard the Catholics saying, the suffering, the more you suffer, you're closer to God, never panned out for me at all. Now, opening my heart and discovering the truth of myself as God actually created me, that's good stuff, you know? So the other one would be, I do not need my home to be more quiet. Can you find some examples of how that might be as true or truer, Allie?
Yeah, because when I have that thought that I do, but then I think of I don't need it to be, I feel that sense of sovereignty that I'm in charge of how I feel and what I create and what I give my energy and attention to. And when I'm expecting things to be different than they are, when I'm making that a mandate, rather than that thought, I don't need it to be. I don't need anyone or anything to be different. That brings me a great sense of, I feel like I want to sit up a bit taller and I want to be more central in my own experience rather than being dispersed.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm a cooperative part of the puzzle of life, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. In the flow, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so with these turnarounds, you look for 3 examples of how the turnaround is actually as true or truer. Now, I have one that would be true for me about I don't need my house to be quieter. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
That I need my house to be noisier so that I can find my alignment unconditionally.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I don't want my alignment or my deep meditations to be disturbable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a greater opportunity to maintain that awakeness or that connection if noise, doesn't factor in, but I commonly say to myself in meditation, allow that noise to take you even deeper, or allow that sound to take you
Yes,
even
yes,
deeper. So
yes.
yeah.
Exactly so, exactly so. And sometimes people, when they're new to the work, they're like, well, you're just imagining this, who would I be? I'm just imagining this. And I'm like, well, you're imagining the other stuff too. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
even though
I
I've been
imagine a lot.
imagining it for 40 years, yeah, it doesn't make it real, but it's real in your experience. And that's the trap that these questions can help you step out of.
Beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for doing the work with me, Kathryn. Yeah.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but I just thought,
No, I love it.
I
I
think
think
that's
it's
the best way for people to get a clue as far as what's possible here. And there's so much more depth and, nuance to it, but that's the ball game right there. Suffering is optional.
so. People just witnessed semi-miracle. I'm now loving my loud, crazy household. Can you give us some examples of how others have? Do you have some cases or examples of like some big shifts?
Oh yeah, I have a bazillion of them. So one of my current clients was looking at divorce. Very much so, had spent her whole life with her husband and things, and it was really a non-working situation, and she just kept finding her own truth in it. And yeah, and they're moving, back together. And yeah, it just happens when you get clear. The other people around you, you can see them more clearly, so that changes the dynamic. And the other people lots of times want to get clear too. That's why I never have to advertise, because people are like, what happened to you? And they'll be like, well, there's this old lady and sugar you gone. Ask these questions. I don't know. But, so yeah, I mean, I've seen people step out of serious illness. I've seen people, you know, I'm just trying to think. I mean, all of my clients are amazing. I mean, business, this really works well in business because we are really collectively unconscious in the business environment. And so I work with a lot of CEOs and that kind of thing, and yeah. And so they question what they think they know about their clients or their vendors or their whatevers. And then all of a sudden there's harmony in ways they've never had them before. Parenting is always really good. Lots of times parents will call me and say, my kid needs to come and see you. And I'm like, well, I'm noticing you're the one on the phone. So let's start with you. And lots of times we don't have to do the kid, because once the parent is clear, the relationship cleans up.
Beautiful.
This woman that I referenced that was going to get a divorce, she started getting clear, and this guy had all kinds of trauma that he needed to work through. But he sought out, a trauma veteran therapist, whatever kind of person, and he started doing his own healing, So yeah, what are some of my favorites? Oh, I worked with someone that I love. I mean, I get to fall in love with people all darn day. I worked with, people around death, someone that I worked with recently, his son died in a motorcycle accident a few months ago, and he was devastated. And he's like, I got 2 grief therapists. I read so many books and it's just not working. And, he was able to find his freedom really quickly, and just such a love bug. And I also worked with this man whose only son, had been brutally murdered in a triple homicide on the East Coast. Anyway, it was one of those deals where his ex-partner was involved with someone who was in drug dealing or something. And so it was sort of retribution, but he was here in Utah. Anyway, the short version is one of my other clients recommended him to me. And it had only been like a few weeks after the event. And I was like, I don't know about this one. Might be, might be too much too soon, right? And so I actually did my own work. And I do that with, if I have agitation or anything, when my stories come up, I do my work.
That's
And
fascinating.
that's what makes me good at what I do, because I know there's nothing that inquiry cannot support or heal, if people are ready. So anyway, I was really apprehensive, and this beautiful man walked in here, and he was doing whatever somebody who'd been through that does, and we started doing the inquiry. And I think his one-liner, I don't remember exactly, was this shouldn't have happened, right? Pretty straight up, son brutally murdered. That makes sense, doesn't it? And he realized, he really saw, and it doesn't mean that he was like never sad about it again or whatever, but the agony of the whole thing was relieved. He was able to find peace with what is, and actually some grace in some of it as well, so it was mind-blowing,
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell you all kinds of stories. I mean,
Yeah, I could see how it would be challenging to sit with someone that had lost a loved one so close to the time you were with them, and how that might be,
yeah, that you might not
look.
be ready to look, and from the context of the work, how do I know he should be coming? He is.
Right,
It's
right.
like, and when I did the inquiry too much too soon, the turnaround was, not that, essentially. And my thoughts about it were too much too soon, because I had not even met the man, and he is
Right.
actually incredibly brilliant and gifted and capable to find his way. And he did, and it was mind-blowing. Yep.
That's beautiful. I bet a lot of people have found, like you said, a lot of relief and a lot of grace. It allows for grace to come in.
Yes.
When there's some space in being, so fixed onto a particular painful belief or thought or feeling, and to be able to examine it and find a space around it. What a blessing.
Yeah, it is a blessing. It is.
So
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, once, this was years ago, but somebody said, "What do you do for a living, Kathryn?" And I said, "Well, I get to sit around and watch people wake up all day, And then someone said, "Well, are you a nurse?" And I said, no, I'm a lot more like a plumber." Which is exactly, I mean, these questions open up, so the congestion and the contraction just disappear, and it is such grace to be able to offer this work and to practice it myself.
Truly.
It just, it's pure grace. I cannot, I mean, Byron Katie, and this gift is just life-changing.
Yeah. Well, we are right at the end of our show, and I have so enjoyed this conversation with you. I would love to ask you the one question I ask everyone, which is, the song, "What the World Needs Now is Love, Sweet Love." What else does the world need now today, Kathryn?
Self-love. Say.
Yeah, so true.
Because that's we've been trained to love other people, but that doesn't breed a love you can count on until you're there for yourself.
Great.
So,
Thank you. That's beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much. I know that everyone will get a great benefit from listening to you and this conversation and doing a little bit of their own self-inquiry. So thank you, Kathryn.
You are so welcome.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for watching. I have so enjoyed this conversation with Kathryn. I know that she's doing some great work, and I look forward to meeting you for coffee soon. And I look forward to next week when we'll have another guest here at The Growing Edge. Take care. Goodbye.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
Thank you. That was amazing. Oh, can't hear you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, and I posted that stay on. I meant that just for Kathryn, but she jumped off. Thank you. That was awesome. I felt like it went well. How about you?
Yeah, very well. That was really a fascinating conversation.
Yeah. Have you looked into the work?
I hadn't, but I will.
Yeah, it's truly just quite phenomenal. I mean, it's been around a long time, and it really is an amazing transformative tool for liberation. Yeah.
It really sounds like it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and I will see you along the way.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.